All right, let's talk about a skill that, for a lot of developers, is way harder than writing clean code. I'm talking about how you communicate your work, your decisions, and your ideas. Because think about it for a second. What's that one thing in our jobs that can be more stressful, more complicated, and honestly have higher stakes than getting that tricky algorithm just right? It's not something you do in your editor. It happens away from the keyboard entirely. Yeah, that's it. Just talking about the code. Explaining why you made a certain choice, trying to justify a budget for a new tool, or, and this is the big one, managing a complete meltdown when things go wrong. This is where your code meets the messy, complicated real world. See, your success as a developer doesn't just depend on how good your code is. It really depends on your ability to use your words to justify why you're doing something, explain a big change to people who aren't technical, and navigate a crisis without freaking out. So, how do we get better at this? Well, we're going to deconstruct 3 classic, high-stakes developer scenarios. Think of this as building a professional language toolkit, giving you the exact phrases and strategies you need to have in your back pocket. All right, scenario number 1. This is a situation pretty much every developer runs into. You need something, a new tool, a new service, whatever. And you have to convince the person who controls the budget to say yes. So here's the deal. The website feels super slow for your users overseas, let's say in Asia. You know the fix is a content delivery network, a CDN. But the e-commerce manager just sees that the company spent a ton of money on a server upgrade last year. And there it is, the pushback. And you can't really blame them, right? Their logic is based on a really simple comparison. Faster than. It's not totally wrong, but it is completely missing the real problem. So now it's your job to reframe the whole conversation. Now watch what the tech lead does here. It's so smart. They don't argue about server speed. No, they immediately pivot. They introduce a more specific, more accurate term, latency, and they call it the core bottleneck. They're literally changing the definition of success right in front of the manager. So what is latency really? Well, you know that annoying pause you get before a web page starts to load? That's latency. Even if you have the fastest server in the world, the physical distance to a user in Asia creates a delay just to get that first piece of data over to them. We call that time to first byte, and that's the real villain in our story here. And this is how they seal the deal. This is the toolkit for justification. They use a better comparative, more efficient than. They hit them with hard data. A TTFB over 2 seconds is bad, period. They use a superlative to show this isn't just an improvement, it's the most significant one. And then the knockout punch. They tie it all to a business goal. Maximizing user retention. That's not tech speak, that's the language of money. Okay, so you got the budget. Awesome. Now let's raise the stakes. We're moving on from getting a single tool to explaining a massive, fundamental change to your entire system. The situation is this. Your application is a monolith. One giant, tangled piece of code. And it's holding you back. You know you need to move to microservices, but that's a huge, expensive, and disruptive project. How do you convince everyone that it's not just a nice-to-have, but an absolute necessity? This slide just lays it out so clearly. The monolith on the left is like one giant ship. If one small part springs a leak, the whole thing could go down. It's fragile. But microservices, on the right, that's like a fleet of smaller, independent boats. If one has a problem, the others just keep sailing on. It's not just a different design. It's a completely different philosophy built for resilience. And just listen to the language the senior dev uses. There's zero ambiguity here. The change must be made. You should view this as critical. This isn't a friendly suggestion. This is a strategic directive. And it's all framed around stability and mitigating risk. So what are the tools they're using? They're subtle, but they are so powerful. Words like must create a sense of obligation. It's not an option. Should guides the other person's thinking. And then you've got the passive voice. Is compromised, is isolated. That describes the process objectively, like a law of physics. It's not an opinion, it's just how the system works. All right, for our third and final scenario, we are officially in the hot seat. The pressure is on, everything is broken, and every single person is looking directly at you for an answer. Yep, it's the moment we all dread. The big production deployment just crashed and burned. You have a hard deadline, panic is creeping in. The very first words out of your mouth are going to set the tone for everything that follows. So, What do you say? Now just look at this response from the junior dev. It is absolutely perfect. It is calm, it is precise, and it is factual. And notice that beautiful use of the passive voice. The deployment was interrupted. It's not "I messed up" or "the script failed on me." It states what happened without pointing a finger at anyone. It focuses on the event, not the person. And just like that, they've turned total chaos into a clear 3-step plan. It's brilliant. First, contain the damage. The system is being rolled back. Second, find the cause. We must check the logs. And third, outline the fix. A hot fix will be deployed. This is how you take control. You create a process. So what's the big lesson here? In a crisis, your most powerful communication tool is the passive voice. Seriously, it completely removes blame from the equation. It keeps the conversation objective and gets everyone focused on the solution, instead of wasting time figuring out whose fault it is. Okay, we have been through 3 pretty intense situations. Let's pull all of these lessons together into one simple toolkit that you can start using like tomorrow. This slide right here, this is your cheat sheet. When you need to justify an investment, you use the language of business value. That means sharp comparisons and hard data. When you're explaining huge changes, you speak with authority using words like must and should. And when you're in a crisis, you become the calm in the storm by using the passive voice to state the facts and create a clear plan. Because at the end of the day, your code is just talking to a computer. And that's the easy part. The language you use to explain it, to defend it, and to fix it when it breaks, that is what turns great code into a great product. And frankly, it's what builds a great career. So the real question is, how are you going to talk about it?